Okay, so what we're looking at here is a regime in the middle of a total strategic collapse. Seriously, what started with just one single targeted strike has completely spiraled. It's now a full-blown crisis that's hitting Iran's military, their alliances, and even their diplomatic game. This is the security briefing on where things stand right now. The entire crisis really starts with this number, 92%. According to US Central Command, that's the percentage of the Iranian Navy's largest ships that have been wiped out in just the last 5 weeks. I mean, that's not a setback. That's an annihilation of their ability to project any real power in the region. And this isn't just some abstract number on a screen. This message from US Admiral Brad Cooper is incredibly direct. This is not your typical military jargon. It's a direct appeal to the sailors on the ground. And it just shows you how dire the US believes the situation has become for them. So, here's how we're going to break this all down. First, we'll dig into that naval collapse, what really caused it. Then, we'll look at the regime's frankly desperate reaction back home. After that, we'll examine the critical lifeline Russia is throwing them, the huge Israeli countermove to cut that line, and finally, we'll unpack the incredibly fragile negotiations that are going on behind closed doors. It all kicked off with what's called a decapitation strike, one that left the IRGC Navy, that's the Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps, completely and utterly leaderless. The main target was a guy named Ali Reza Tangsiri. He was the commander in charge of closing the Strait of Hormuz. But here's the kicker. According to senior Israeli officials, the site also took out his entire senior leadership, his top 8 commanders, all gathered in a secret underground command center. This wasn't just losing a leader, this was losing the entire brain of the operation in one shot. And, well, a hit like that is gonna force a desperate response, right? So let's shift gears and look at what's happening inside Iran, as the regime is just scrambling to fill these massive gaps. This slide really shows you just how desperate things have gotten. On one side, you've got international law, which, by the way, Iran agreed to, that sets the minimum military age at 18. Pretty standard. But on the other side, the IRGC's new policy. To fill their ranks, they've dropped the minimum age for war-related support roles down to 12. Yes, 12-year-olds. It's a shocking break from international norms, and honestly, a huge red flag that they are in a deep, deep personal crisis. So, with its own military in shambles, Tehran is turning to its most powerful ally. Let's really dive into this Russian lifeline and see how this alliance of necessity actually works. It's really a pretty straightforward transactional relationship. See, Iran had already sent Russia thousands of its Shahad drones to be used in Ukraine. But Russia didn't just use them. They took them apart, figured them out, built their own factories, and started churning out upgraded versions they call Jawan drones. And now, Russia is paying Iran back for that favor by sending a steady stream of weapons, food, and medicine right back to them. We're not talking about the same old drones either. The Russian upgrades are a huge deal. They've got better engines, they're much harder to jam, and this is the most critical part, they have AI-powered terrain recognition. Basically, this means the drone can find its own way to the target even if it gets cut off from its operator. It makes for a much, much more dangerous weapon. But you can bet a lifeline like that wasn't going to go unnoticed. Which brings us to the next move in this chess game, Israel's unprecedented attack to cut that supply line right at the source. Now, to get why this strike was so significant, you really have to look at the map. The Caspian Sea is basically a direct maritime highway between Russia and Iran. no other countries go through. It's the absolute perfect backdoor for transferring weapons and supplies. So by hitting naval ports there for the first time ever, Israel wasn't just hitting ships, it was attacking the main artery of that whole Russian-Iranian alliance. So the big question is, why didn't Russia retaliate for an attack on its strategic interests? Well, according to Vladimir Putin himself, the reason is all about demographics. He points to the almost 2 million Russian speakers living in Israel, calling it, quote, almost a Russian-speaking country. It's a political calculation. Hitting back at Israel is just complicated for him because of his deep ties. Okay, so with the military situation is volatile, all eyes start to turn to the diplomats. And that brings us to the final piece of this puzzle, the incredibly delicate negotiations happening under some extreme pressure. Which, of course, raises the huge question, is there any realistic way to de-escalate all this? The signals, to put it lightly, are really mixed. And adding another layer of intrigue, you've got this cryptic statement from former President Trump. He confirmed that Iran offered some kind of present to show they were serious about talking. And this wasn't a physical gift, it was a strategic signal. So what was this present? Well, it was a pure demonstration of power. By briefly opening up the Straits of Hormuz to oil tankers, the faction of the Iranian regime at the negotiating table was sending a crystal clear message to the US. That message was, hey, we're the ones you need to talk to. We're the ones who control this critical waterway. It was a bold move to prove they had real authority in a chaotic situation. And this is where things stand today. Publicly, Iran says no talks are happening. Deny, deny, deny. But privately, sources are saying they're actually more willing to listen than ever before. But, and this is a huge but, look at their new demand, full legal control over the Strait of Hormuz. They weren't even asking for that before their navy got wiped out. So even as their military gets weaker, their demands get bigger. It's no surprise the odds of the deal are considered pretty low. And that really leaves us with a central question of this whole crisis. It's the ultimate paradox. You have a regime that's been brought to its knees militarily, but at the same time, it's making its boldest demands ever. So is this a real, if desperate, attempt to find a diplomatic way out of this mess? Or is this whole negotiation just a clever strategy to buy time, to regroup, and to rearm?